Alright, how's it going, everybody? So, we have 5 new cards from the direct, quote unquote, that Dan made. Just want to kind of go over those cards, what I think about them, kind of what they fall into with the other stuff we've seen so far, and I just want to get right into it. So, first off, we have a couple new card, actually, stat blocks. So, we've seen Aphros before, it was actually part of a little bit of a community naming process, which is really cool. And Tectaris, which also we got to choose the name of in a way because we community made a better name. But actually going into their effects, so Ephros is 1 water. You can Nexus up to 2 water on your field. If you successfully Nexus from this effect, you can draw 2 cards. I mean, drawing cards is always good. Nexus 2 water in your field, so you need to have 2 water in your field to begin with. Now, we don't know exactly what Nexus is yet, but generally nexusing things seems to make things stronger or get more powerful or build you to a place that you want to be. So that fact seems like you do a good thing, get good stuff out of it. 2/4 means it's probably going to get knocked out itself pretty quick from other creatures. Well, Elestrals, not creatures. Let me get my wording right. But I think it looks like a solid, early turn play to just kind of get in play, do some manipulations, get value out of it. Seems really good. Maybe it's not super great. We don't really know yet until we get the rest of the set and play guide and all that, but I think it's going to be a strong card. And then we have Tectaris. I think Tectaris is just like an early tempo play. So 1 attack for every enchanting earth on the field. So having him out means he's probably automatically going to be a 4/2. That's kind of in line with the rest of the stats of the other 1 enchantment costs we've seen. Maybe it gets, you know, 5, 6, 7. So he's gonna keep up a little bit with like the 1s and 2 costs, depending on, you know, how you play him when you play him. In terms of attack power, his defense is 2, which means he gets probably wiped out pretty easily from most other things. Like we've seen the Trifernal effect. Trifernal knocks out Tectaurus. So if you try to play Tectaurus into like a Trifernal, he's gone. I think it's a solid early play turn 1 kind of thing. Just have a creature that's going to get a little bit bigger. He doesn't seem that threatening with his ability, but as is, I think it's pretty standard for what we've seen for the 1 cost cards. I don't really have much to say about him because he doesn't really do much. He can be a medium-sized beater, I guess, for 1 cost. He occasionally is a beater that can hand up to the 2 cost stuff, from what we've seen so far. I I don't know where he's gonna go from there though, but it's got a cool design. I mean, both these guys are really cool looking, in my opinion, and we'll see where Tectorus and Aphros stand with the rest of the cards. I think Aphros between these two definitely going to see more play than Tectorus. Drawing cards is always great. And they've said there's going to be a tons of draws effect and things are being super consistent. So I don't know if the game's going to be super consistent if you need just basically a vanilla beater with Tectaurus. It's just okay, he gets a little bit bigger, but maybe you're playing a 3 color deck, you don't even have that much earth on the field. So but what's the next part that's really cool is we have some of the Invoke runes spoiled. So we got Eruption, Earthquake with the actual card art, and then we got Tornado, but we didn't actually get the card. We just got the art and the effect from Dan. So starting with Eruption it's a 2 enchant cost rune Invoke. That's what the little diamond symbols on the card looks on the sides mean. So your opponent must expend 3 spirits. If they control fire, enchant Elestral, they must expend 1 spirit instead. This seems to be a going theme so far with some of the red cards where it's like Trifernal, terrible in a mirror match. Eruption, look kind of terrible in a mirror match where it's like opponents expending 3 spirits. So that means expending's generally going to be bad for your opponents. And if they control fire, they do less of that. So this card is either expend 3 or expend 1. We don't really know quite exactly what expend does yet, but this card seems like it'll probably be okay and maybe like an aggro burn kind of strategy, and terrible in any mirror match because you're going down resources. Like you're basically doing 1 card for 1 spirit versus you could be doing 1 card for 3 spirits in the not fire mirror match. I think Eruption's going to be kind of bad because you just might end up going against fire and it being basically worthless. So I don't think Eruption's that great. It's cool that we get to see the effects early, so we kind of know, okay, fire does expending stuff. We saw Necrof expend stuff. That's probably part of the aggro play strategy for the game. I think Eruption's bad because I mean maybe if there's a sideboard and you know you're not going against a fire deck and you're playing burn, it's your sideboard card just to get some more damage in. But like it looks really bad because of that stipulation where if your opponent has fire as well, it does basically like almost nothing. Like it does basically what Necrop does, but for two. I don't know. I don't think it's that good. Earthquake, on the other hand, that's your standard just removal card, destroying Elestral on the field. So as long as your opponent's creature can be or Elestral can be targeted by Invoke, so if it's like maybe Centaur or Fully Force, you can't quite knock that out. But this gets rid of basically any single threat that's an Elestral. So it one for ones, but it's if you're hitting like a 3 cost card or something that your opponent just spent their whole turn getting out, it's good value. Like removal cards in card games, always strong. Earthquake is clearly a control thing. Imagine this is going to be in the same deck as your Centaur probably, so you already have kind of Centaur control effects with the destroying cards Centaur, followed up with some Earthquakes as well. Like that seems like a really solid control strategy. So I think Earthquake is just destroying Elestral just seems good, unless 2 cost is too expensive for this. We don't really know where it's going to fall compared to the other cards, but just generally destroy target Elestral in the field, just destroying something in general, usually good effect, usually good in control. I mean, it might see play in some mid-range aggro if it's good enough too. I mean, it's probably going to see like a mid-range play if we get a bunch of mid-range decks. It's just I don't know, destroying Elestral. It's good. That's what you want in the deck. Like you want answers to your opponent's stuff. That seems solid. And then Tornado. Dan said that it had the same effects as Stratomoth, but in room form, so you can expend. So it's probably going to be 1, maybe 2 enchantment costs. We have blurry images, so I think it's a 1 cost. I just don't want to put the blurry images on here. And you return a rune to your opponent's field to their hand. So, it prevents your opponents from building up that back line if you think they have some counter runes in play or something. Or, something scary that you don't want, like an artifact that's scary or something, you just go, okay, back to your hand. It's always useful. I think that might see play in like I'm thinking maybe like a Firewind Tempo or aggro deck might see that because if you're playing like Firewind aggro, right, and you want to get your Necrofs to play and you don't want them to be affected and you want to like build up your fire creatures and just go to town and try to go for an aggro strategy potentially, like getting rid of some backline cards for relatively cheap. That'll open up the board for you to do that. So if they're holding up some Celestial counter card or some card to negate, an Elestral enchanting or something, you just tornado it away first just to open up the board, and then drop your creatures and go from there so that you kind of get under the counters. So I think that's generally going to be a solid card. It would be nice if it destroyed the rune instead, so your opponent can theoretically just replay it. But if you set it up where you return a face down a counter rune or something to their hand, and then play your creatures after it to open up, a little window for you to get in under them. That's always good. But we only have these 3 invokes so far. I'm curious to see what we get for water and thunder soon. Water likes to recur stuff from what we've seen in ramp, so maybe the water one just kind of lets you get more water spirits into play. I don't know. I'm just musing, and the lightning maybe is some kind of anti negate or destroy effect. We really don't know. I'm just musing here. But yeah, I just want to show off these 5 cards that we've seen so far and talk about them a little bit. If you guys aren't already in the Discord, just join the Discord. I'll drop some links below. We're having a really fun time down there, and we're going to be getting a bunch of playtest decks soon. So when we get the playtest decks, the Discord's probably going to be the best way to find someone to play online with. Generally, just use camera setup, point it down at your playmat or your desk, play like that. It works great for other games. I do it all the time for the other TCGs I play. So if you want to find some people to play with, join the Discord, start chatting with people. I've already got a bunch of people who's like, "Oh, I'm playing you, you're playing me," blah blah blah. So it'll be fun, and I hope that I can play some games against you guys. And if I get enough games in, I'll probably record them and do some little kind of gameplay over them, talk over them, etc. Talk about the decks that I'm playing versus my opponent's playing, and I'll be doing some deck tech stuff. I'll be trying to manipulate make some decks interesting with the cards that we get from those pre-production stuff. So yeah, that's all I had for today. Hopefully we get some more cards soon. I'll do another video. I'll probably do one every time we get 3 to 5 cards, just to kind of pace it out. And we're looking at like 120 cards, I think, in the set roughly. So that's going to be a lot. We'll probably get more and more cards as we go. And then when we get the pre-production decks, we're just going to have a bunch of new cards to look at. So, all right. See you guys another next time we get more video stuff.